Creativity Podcast. I'm your host, Mari Reesberg. Over the past several years, I've combined my degrees in acting and somatic psychology to share my sustaining creativity techniques with performers. And now I've decided to share it with a bigger audience that includes you. I believe we are all creative, and this podcast is all about that. I'll be interviewing people from all backgrounds, ages, and creativity experiences to share just how creative we all are. Today, I'll be chatting with John Avilla, CEO and co-founder of Sound Union. Please enjoy John Avilla. Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. Today I'm chatting with John Avilla, CEO and co-founder of Sound Union. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Mari. It's great to be here.
I am super excited to chat with you about creativity and how it shows up to you in your life and what it means to you. But before we get there, why don't you take a couple of minutes and let our listeners know a little bit more about who you are and what it is you do?
I am a lifelong creative, I guess I would say. I love the idea of being creative. Never feel like I have earned the title yet. So I keep working every day to try and get that. Different ways in different stages of my life. Right now, my biggest creative endeavor is a startup in Central California in the Bay Area for musicians, people who love to play music in their spare time, who have day jobs but want to play with others. So I've created the high-end social club, sort of like I call it either a country club for musicians or a health club for musicians, depending on how you want to frame it. But people who just love to play music and looking for a community to join to do that in a really nice environment.
That's amazing. And what a gift to share with musicians or people who may not consider themselves musicians but love to play an instrument, because that sounds like there's a piece for that for you as well in terms of that title of creative. You enjoy what it means to be creative, but calling yourself a creative may not fully encompass who you are
There,
and
there,
what you
there-
do.
there's definitely crossover. It's a funny dynamic that people who create
Yeah.
have a hard time calling themselves creative, whether it's textiles or painting
Yeah.
or building something in your garage or a workshop or mechanic even is creative. I think there's a lot of ways to be creative. And it is true, the folks who have day jobs but then play music on the side, and these are the same people. You go into bars and
Mhm.
restaurants and clubs, 99% of the time, it's amateurs. Um,
Yeah.
and it's just people who love playing and got a little bit of ham in them, so they want to perform. So, but it is hard to say, yes, I am a musician, or yes, I am a creative. We try to
Yeah.
encourage the acceptance
Hmm.
of that here.
I love it. I love the acknowledgement that amateur is allowed. Like it doesn't have to be a professional level. It can, and it can also be at an amateur side experience, and that's just as powerful and meaningful.
Right. Language kind of gets in the way a little bit, right? I
Yeah,
mean, plenty of people who it's not their full-time job. Uh,
right.
they play for beer money, but they are extremely proficient. I would,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, pro level.
Hmm.
But right now, that's my kind of key endeavor every day is creating an environment for people to make the
Hmm.
best of their lives.
That's incredible. How did you stumble into this or create this?
He stumbles a funny word. Well, I I've had a career in Silicon Valley in advertising and marketing, and I would play music. I mean, I've played music my whole life, in junior high and high school and college, and it was a way to recharge my batteries, to have fun. It's a pretty addictive practice. It's kind of fun, and you meet people, and you form a good band, and like I said, you go out and play for beer. Or you become the house band for the school. That's usually how these things start. You meet a parents in kindergarten. You go, oh, you play, I play, we play, and all of a sudden you're the house band. So I did that on the side, and then in marketing and advertising, it's pretty competitive. And about my mid 50s, I got laid off,
Mm,
and like, well, look, I've got what I feel are like 15 years left. What could I do to have a little more impact
mm,
um, and create something new, do a little bit of a career pivot.
mm,
And that's when I thought of, well, I've got friends who play golf in nice places or basketball in nice health clubs or, tennis, whatever, swim. And there was nothing like that for musicians. We tend to gather in dingy garages. We're hauling our equipment everywhere, or warehouses that haven't been cleaned in decades. And I thought, you know what? And I looked around for comparables, and there weren't any. So the marketer in me kicked in and
mm,
said, I think I can create a really interesting space and a brand.
mm.
And best, in the future, if we can do more of these as we gain success and roll them out across the U.S., I think there's plenty of places that have people like me and others who just want a nice place to play, and meet nice people.
Oh, I mean, you're speaking to my heart. And as I hear this, I think I would love to have that space. That sounds incredible to be able to participate and meet other musicians or people in that creative field. And
Oh,
yeah.
we found that we've just attracted a lot of creative people. We've built a creative space. I've taken
Mm, mhm.
an ad agency, you know, uh, history. We like to work in really nice places in the ad industry. You walk into most ad agencies, there's some style to them, and there's some, a little bit of cool
Mm,
design. So we've brought that into here,
mhm.
and we also have some room for co-work. So we have got about
Mm,
25 hot desks, and people some of my members aren't even musicians. They just come because it's a cool vibe. So we do get these creative types, a lot of entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, small
mhm.
business that have a small dispersed team. Some of them don't even play music. A lot of them do, and they take their coffee breaks in our studios. But the attractiveness of a creative space, that's definitely one manifestation of my creativity is and my partner's creativity of how to style. We didn't know we were interior designers. You do things on a shoestring budget, but like I said, because of being immersed for a few decades in
Yeah.
the world, we kind of have an eye for walls and furniture and textures and things like that. And it was kind of fun to just do what we wanted and have people like it.
I bet. And that, I mean, just setting up a space for individuals who feel creative to come and show up and surround themselves with what you've put out there, what other people put out there. I'm curious, when you think of being creative, what does it mean to you to be creative?
That's I mean, obviously a great question, seminal to your podcast. And in prepping for this, thinking through it, I grew up in a pretty creative family, creative in a lot of ways. This is late 60s, 70s. My dad was complete analytical thinker and engineer at IBM, but he was also really good with inventing things, always
Mm,
working in the garage. My mom, as an example, was a homemaker, but her creativity was in baking and
mm,
and um, early on they were closet hippies because IBM is pretty strict. My dad always wore tie and white shirts to work and short hair, but on the weekends we would mulch and do recycling before anybody knew what that was. So they were I got this really nice foundation of
mm,
you can do things on your own. You don't have to just consume things.
mhm,
Um, and that gave me a creative lens that I also found in early in writing and in music.
mm,
Um, and that led me, through high school and college even though I took what you would call technical, my degree is actually in neurobiology of all things. Uh, I learned very quickly afterwards, about 4.5 years of doing, helping do research, that I was not, nobody should trust me with their neurons. I, I'm sure I've been very good stewards of my own neurons, but even research is creative, right? You're
Yes.
looking at and interpreting and
Hmm.
trying to understand data and trends and things. So that I had this really broad foundation of what it meant to be creative. It wasn't just somebody who drew or
Mm.
some music or somebody who sculpted or took pictures. All of those, I would say, art type form.
Hmm.
I learned, and I maybe left and right brain combo, that you can bring creativity into science. You can bring it into discipline of psychology,
Hmm.
which helped a lot in my advertising career. So that set a foundation of a real multidimensional view of what creativity is, I think.
Mm. I love that. The multidimensional view of creativity is because I think oftentimes we get single tracked. It's only this. And
Yeah.
to allow ourselves to think beyond that, it sounds like that's the advertiser in you that is
Yeah,
seen
kind of.
it through different lenses.
Yeah, I guess I would summarize it as seeing it as a means to problem solve,
Mm.
right?
Hmm.
Um, that it takes a creative synthesis of inputs, if you will,
Hmm.
come up with something new or something attractive, something that people would respond to. Uh,
Hmm.
and I just kind of, I don't know if it was a self-fulfilling prophecy or not, but that sort of scientific foundation mixed with my music and mixed with writing,
Hmm.
found a really good home in my advertising and marketing career. And
Absolutely.
then you learn things in that career about really what it is to be creative. I was a creative director, became
Mm.
teams fairly early in my career, and um, I like to talk about the once you start leading teams in that kind of creative industry, and I think you see it. I'll give you other examples, but I had a mentor who said, "Hey, now your job is to create an environment where your team can
Mm.
do the best work of their career. So how do you give them the info, the tools to creatively solve problems? It's not just about the way you're thinking about it in your head. There are hundreds of ways
Hmm.
to creatively solve something. How do you help people find them? So that was a real seminal lesson in my career that
Hmm.
just seemed to add this great layer on top of the foundation that I had.
Yeah. What a uh, forward-thinking mentor creating an environment for creativity. And how did you go about doing that? What did that look like? What was your version of creating that environment?
My version was doing the called the due diligence, right?
Mm.
So being that creative focal point in the agency in the agencies that I worked at, or the on the projects that I worked on, to understand really what the underlying needs and issues and
Mm.
then levers we could pull. We called it, I mean, we're not the only ones who call it. It's just you peel back the onion. You keep asking why. You talk
Yeah.
to, and I had tech, B2B tech and B2C sort of
Hmm.
consumer tech clients. And um, sometimes I would frustrate the clients a little bit when I'd ask for whatever, who's your target audience? And they'd say something and I'd go, why that person, or why that
Mm.
persona? And then you just keep asking deeper and deeper. Well, why? What motivates them? And
Mm.
what this kind and what would motivate them? And they sometimes get a little exasperated, going like, I'm like, well, this is how we get to the meat of the issue. And then you use that information in the challenge, I'll call it, the brief to the team that says, okay, here's the thing we're trying to sell. Here's who we're trying to sell it to, and these are the levers we can pull to get them to notice and to
Mm.
consider to purchase. And then that gives a really good foundation. Also, pretty rational foundation against which to measure the
Hmm.
creative. Right? So creative can be very subjective. So you want to try and be as bring in as little subjectivity as possible
Mm-hmm.
when people are creating solutions to something to go, okay, that's a could be cool, but does it do A, B, C, and D? And if
Mm.
it needs and subjectively it's cool, then you've got some winners usually.
Yeah. So for, when you're working on a team or in charge of a team and your team comes up against creative challenges, how do you support navigating those challenges? Were there any little twists or tips or tweaks that you got to employ when your team hit those creative blocks?
Creative blocks, boy, those are tough. I mean, sometimes it's just back off for a few hours, back off for a day.
Mm-hmm.
One other thing I did in college and learned a lot about creativity was improv comedy, and learned that whole yes and structure where don't
Mm-hmm.
say no to somebody, especially in the brainstorming phase.
Mm-hmm.
So, once the yes and sort of kind of grinds a little bit,
Yeah.
um, you know, giving people permission to take a breath, let the muse hit them. I firmly, firmly believe we all have a muse. Sometimes it hits people in the morning. They're a morning muse, they're an afternoon muse, they're a late night muse.
Mm-hmm.
Usually we only have one section of the day that I've learned to have it. So allow people to kind of just relax,
Mm-hmm.
get it's sort of like when you have an argument with somebody and you have opposing forces and they push each other and you kind of
Mm-hmm.
just stalemate. If you relax those, the argument stops. So it's kind of the same thing with a creative argument in your head. I think give
Mm-hmm.
yourself opportunity to go on a walk or do something else, go to a
Mm-hmm.
different project, and you'll get this little. Most of the time, you'll come back with a fresh perspective. And sometimes it's just sweat. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Find the 20th thing, not the third thing,
Mm-hmm.
and a little bit of hard work
Yeah.
sometimes.
I appreciate both of those, that sometimes you back off and sometimes you just keep plowing through and
Yeah,
gotta get that.
usually there's a deadline
You're
involved.
right.
So
Sure.
you may not have the luxury of time sometimes.
Yeah. Well, when careers become creative outlets or when your career is creativity, how do you keep your own creative voice alive in that, maybe not in that space at work, but what happens to your creativity when it becomes a career?
I think it may depend on the career, right?
Mm,
Um, in advertising, which was most of it, the short answer is uh, when I decided to start my latest business
hmm
was the moment of, okay, I'm going to do what I see and what
mm,
I want and how I want to solve a problem. You
hmm
spend 25 years or more, the job is to take on the voice of your client, right?
mm,
Not be the
hmm
voice. It wasn't my voice that was that was in the ads or the
Yeah.
website communications. And our job is not to do that. Our job is to respond in the voice and the methods of the client. Now, sure, we'd have to bring our creativity and add to that, but it
hmm
wasn't John Avilla or whoever else on my team. It wasn't their our job is to have as many clients as we have 20 voices in our head and be able to run those brand voices. There's a really good illustration that I had early in my ad career. He was a creative director at Chiat Day. He's the guy who ended up being the voice of Jack in the Box.
Mm,
He did this great demonstration. Hard to describe, but think of of one of the large post-it notes that people take notes
hmm
on in meetings.
Yeah.
So he took a bottle of ketchup, squirted it on the top, And that ketchup, just made this beautiful red thing that started dripping down the page. He took another bottle, squirted it to the right of it. So at the top of this big sheet of paper was two big red ketchup blobs. One was dripping down the page, one just was sitting there beautifully. And he turns the, crowd of junior creatives and said, "This is art." And then took a black pen, wrote underneath it, "Heinz is thicker." And he said, "This is commerce." He said, "Your job is to do commerce." And it was obviously stuck with me. This is 25, 30 years ago, but
Yeah.
um, I think the same is in all sorts. I mean, there musicians who are super successful. Maybe there's a little more of their own voice. I mean, there's a lot more of their own voice in it, but they understand what's going to resonate. They're not creating, they're really
Mm.
successful. They're not trying to create some avant-garde,
Hmm.
right? I mean, you might get Frank Zappa as an example of some success, but
Yeah.
not traditional in his forms.
Hmm.
It's the same thing with art. I've got a wonderful friend who's a fine artist, and
Mm.
he has learned where his voice matches his
Mm.
audience's voice and creates
Mhm.
amazing pieces of art that people love.
Mm.
It is a combo of not just what I want to say, but can I say it in a way or show it in a way or create something in a way that an audience will want to buy it and
Mm.
support, right? That's the professional level.
Yeah.
So I think back to the short answer, which is way past. When I started this latest venture,
Mhm.
it was okay. Now, what would I want? And you go back to like Steve Jobs would famously talk about create something that you want,
Mm.
and that's one way. And it's the way he built tremendous success, right?
Mhm.
Framework of what did I want in technology. So I finally, in my mid 50s, asked that question and have been trying to answer it authentically with the space that that we've created.
Mm. That's wonderful. I love that. And it sounds like this new space not only is generating income, but is also fueling your own creativity simultaneously to be in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's all different kinds, right? I mean, just before the podcast, I was considering how we're going to decorate this big old blank wall that's been bugging me that I have to walk past every day. So coming up with creative ways to do that, that
Yeah.
are unusual. I don't want to just slap paint on it or
Hmm.
a mural of wallpaper. We got to do something interesting.
Mm.
Do the creativity of being in a room with others who are just making up music on the fly. We have a session that we do on Friday nights that's complete improvisation
Mm.
music, and um, not always doesn't always sound great, but it's always fun. And every once in a while, something hits sticks on the wall and goes, "Oh, that was pretty good." But most of the time, it's just having fun and flexing your creativity. Stretching the
Yeah.
muscles.
Oh, I mean, what a brilliant idea to create a space where people have full permission to do that and it's invited and welcomed and because I think there are spaces out there who say this is what it is, but it's not really. So,
Well, I learned too. Thank you for that too. But I learned early people. Another lesson I firmly believe we're born creative. The creative kind
mm,
of beat out of us. Oh, don't
yeah.
draw it that way. Don't say it that way. Don't sing it that way. Don't make
Mm-hmm.
it that way. Whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and a lot of what any community that wants to help foster creativity should do is kind of remember that and compensate for that and say
Mm-hmm.
how do we make it okay to just try again. We're not on the one hand what we do here, um you know it's not curing cancer, not that having a good musical experience is not good for your health, but
Mhm.
a wrong note's not going to hurt anybody. And it's going to go out in the ether and disappear, and you're going to learn from it and have fun. And
Mm.
so that permission is, it's actually kind of hard for some people, to accept it. And
Yeah.
when they see others doing it, and hey, the water's warm, you're not gonna, not gonna get hurt. It magic can happen. Yeah, I don't know any creative forms where it's perfect every time, right? And
That's the
even
beauty of creativity, right?
right,
It's
right, even
a unique experience every time.
yeah, yeah. The artists or the makers will acknowledge, oh, well, that kind of led me to do X, Y, or Z, and that I hadn't
Mhm.
done or I hadn't thought of, and being open to serendipity and mistakes. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, John, this has been such a wonderful conversation. I have one last question. What does it feel like in your body to be creative?
It feels relaxing and
Mm.
and and re-energizing. I mean, maybe it's go back to a self-fulfilling I used it to unplug
Mm.
and
Mhm.
used it to kind of music to let go. My key form of creativity is music. I mean, I do other things like graphics and graphic arts and writing and things like that. But I think in every one of those forms, um, ending with this feeling of, yeah, that took my mind off of stresses. I produced something. I do enjoy that, and I kind of like the satisfaction of solving a problem. So it does feel like a little bit of relief, a little bit of relaxation, I would
Mm.
say.
Well, that sounds wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. If people want to learn more about the Sound Union and the other work you have out in the world, how could they go about doing that?
Uh, for Sound Union, you can go to soundunion.com and see where we are, especially if you're in the Bay Area. Come on in, experience the place. It's not at all what people expect. Uh, and I always like hearing that because it's better than most people expect when they hear about music spaces.
Mhm.
They don't believe the pictures online. The second thing is I am on LinkedIn, just John Avilla on LinkedIn, and you can see and connect with me through there as well.
Perfect. Well, I will add those links to show notes so people have easy access. And thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. This has been such a wonderful conversation.
Well, thank you, Mari. I still feel I'm not worthy of creativity. We're trying every day.
Every conversation gets you a little bit closer.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. We'd love to keep in touch, so follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We are at Sustaining Creativity. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Tag your friends and family so they can listen too. We love to hear from you, so leave your reviews, comments, and questions. Check out our website, sustainingcreativity.com, for upcoming offerings and creativity coaching. Tune in Tuesdays for our next episode. And remember, with creativity, anything's possible.